What's up guys, coming to you live. My name is Kyle Scott. Today I'm going to answer a question that I get asked pretty frequently from people who are wanting to learn to play guitar. Oftentimes parents who want their kids to learn to play guitar, and that is, which would be better for me to start on electric or on acoustic, or which would be better for my kid. Today I'm going to just talk about the pros and cons of starting on electric or starting on acoustic. I'm going to share my opinion with you, and then I'll give you my personal recommendation at the end. Hopefully it doesn't make anyone too angry. But I have an opinion based on teaching guitar for almost 2 decades now on which one's better. But I want you to hear the reasons behind it, because it might not be better for you what I'm going to recommend at the end. You need to see what works for you or for your kid. Thank you so much for subscribing to my channel and supporting all these videos. I'm dividing this into a sort of a head-to-head competition here, several categories. We'll see which instrument wins in each category. We're going to talk about price, then playability, in other words, how easy it is to actually play the instrument. And then we'll talk about practicality, aka which one makes more sense for a brand new player just starting out, someone who was wanting to see some quick results so they don't quit, someone who wants to build up a practice routine. Okay, so practicality. Let's start with price. When it comes to how much it costs, whether an electric guitar or an acoustic guitar, there's not going to be a massive difference in just the cost of the guitar, but there is a difference. I think acoustic guitars win out here. You can get a decent beginner acoustic guitar for a couple $100, while you're going to have to spend probably a few more than that to get a decent beginner electric guitar that doesn't sound too thin when you plug it in, and that doesn't lose tune. I'm going to leave a couple links in the description to this video if you're interested in finding one of these beginner guitars, electric or acoustic. And while the price point is not a huge difference in beginner level electric versus acoustic guitars, but although the acoustic does, I think, have a slight edge, I think the big difference in price really comes in the external gear that you need when you play an electric in order to sound like the guitars that you hear on your favorite album. You're going to need a good amp or an amp simulator, which could be a couple $100, several $1,000s. And this just isn't the case with an acoustic, which you can just play with no amp and hear it just fine, and no speakers necessary. The acoustic projects its own volume through, you can see here, the acoustic it's got a body to it. It's hollow on the inside, so it projects in the hole and all that. So electric needs to be plugged in to really hear it. And not to mention, with an electric, you'll need to pay for pedals eventually to get distortion or reverb or delay or compression. Which almost every electric player uses effects pedals, because that's the beauty of an electric. It's got so many different sounds it can produce, which is awesome, but the price starts to get expensive. If you're talking spending anywhere from a few $100 to a few $1,000, not just on the amp, but also then doing that with the pedals. And the acoustic doesn't really need any of those things. So in terms of price, I have to give the thumbs up to the acoustic guitar. Now in terms of playability, our second category, I believe this is the electric guitar's biggest strength when deciding whether you should start on acoustic or electric, because 9 times out of 10 the electric guitar is going to be easier to play than the acoustic. Here's a response I got when I asked this question, acoustic guitar versus electric guitar for beginners, to my subscribers. Having taught or advised lots of folks starting out, I think electric all the way. That's even more true now that tiny, decent sounding amps with headphone jacks have gotten ubiquitous and cheap. Pain is inevitable when learning to play, but it's not your friend, and you can usually set up even the cheapest electric to be easy to play. If lots of decent, cheap nylon acoustics were available with non-classical spacing, I'd say it doesn't matter, but there aren't, so it does. This is a fair point. Finger pain is inevitable when you're starting to learn. You're going to have to build some calluses up on the tips of your fingers, but you can minimize this pain with electric guitars. Especially for those like kids with smaller, weaker hands who need all the advantage they can get. Electric guitar could be the better option just because of playability. And cheap amps have made it so much easier to get started on them. Here's what another person said in the same question. I'm glad I started on electric as a young teen because I already wasn't motivated to play when I was younger. Having an electric guitar is typically a smaller body than acoustic. Strings are easier to push down, which makes a huge difference that can then be transferred to acoustic guitar. The setup of the guitar makes a huge difference in the playability. If it's not set up well, the beginner may not even know that it's the guitar's fault and blame themselves for not being able to play things like bar chords. Electric guitars have lighter strings, smaller bodies, smaller necks. They're generally easier to play, and like I said before, you're not going to have as much finger pain. Your kid, if they're prone to quitting or prone to being distracted easily, the finger pain can be a huge deterrent, and you can minimize that with an electric guitar. But I want to give you this last response, which kind of makes the opposite point as these two guys did. Here's what another person had to say. I'm thankful I started out on an acoustic guitar. It taught me strength in playing, especially bar chords. And when I went to playing the electric guitar, it was like going from no power steering to power steering. That's a pretty good analogy because it does. I started on acoustic, and when you move to electric after, a few years or months of playing, it is like going to power steering. It's just so much easier to play the chords, and everything just feels like you're flying when you hit electric after you've built up strength on the acoustic. So there's kind of two ways to look at that, but I still have to give the clear advantage to electric in terms of playability. Much less finger pain when you're starting out, much easier to get clear sounding notes because the amp is going to project everything for you. And so playability, the win goes to electric guitar. My third category I want to talk about is practicality. Which one is more convenient? Which one is more portable? Which one requires hitting a smaller threshold in terms of seeing results quickly? Which one's better for intimate small settings, for loud big stages? I think it's obvious where I'm going with this. It's got to be the acoustic. The acoustic guitar is a pick up and play kind of instrument. It's almost entirely in a league of its own. One subscriber had this to say about it. I think both are great. However, when you're starting out, the most important thing is practicing a lot. So an acoustic guitar may be the best. You can play it anywhere. You don't need any extra things, just the guitar. Just the guitar, period. Right? Piano, not portable. Drums, not portable. Bass, electric bass, not portable. And so the acoustic guitar, the beauty of it is I have everything I need right here. You can take it anywhere, to the beach, to the woods, to school if you need to, and play it anywhere. No extra hardware is really necessary to play it. Or you can plug it in if you want and play for 20,000 streaming fans. It's just so versatile like that. So in terms of practicality, flexibility, convenience, portability, the acoustic is the clear winner. To sum it all up, when it comes to price, acoustics have the advantage. When it comes to playability, electrics have the advantage. When it comes to practicality, acoustics. So which one should you decide? People might be angry if I don't share with you my recommendation, and while I think you could make a case for either one, I think I have to give the edge to acoustic in terms of which one I would recommend to a beginner who wanted my opinion. It's just too hard to ignore that convenience and portability factor, the low threshold for starting out. Just buy a guitar and you can play. You don't need any extra gear. The electric is great for playability. It's easier to play. In terms of all the other factors put together, the acoustic, I think, wins it out. But I got to leave you with this last response from one of my subscribers. Here's what he said about this question. Let the beginner play the guitar they want to play. I always hear some people say to let them start on acoustic guitar, but honestly, I think that's so dumb. If the beginner wants to play the electric guitar, let them have the electric guitar to practice. If the beginner wants to play acoustic guitar, let them have the acoustic guitar to practice. Yep. That's accurate. It really does come down to the burning desire within you or your child to play the electric or the acoustic. If they have a leaning one way, especially with electric, if you have a little extra money and you're prepared down the road to buy a few more pedals, an amp, to spend more money on external gear, then go for electric. I mean, it really does come down to what you want to play because you need a lot of motivation when you're starting out. It's easy to get discouraged and to want to quit, but if you're playing the one that you were kind of inspired by from the beginning, you might last longer and you might stick with it and play it your whole life. So, go the direction you want to go if you have a preference. But if you're undecided, my recommendation would be to start on acoustic. Thank you so much for watching this. I hope that you learned a lot and that you can make an informed decision now if you're trying to get started or your kid is trying to get started on guitar. Leave a comment below if I forgot something or said something stupid. I will listen to it and enjoy hearing your opinions. Have a great day. I'll see you on my next video. Peace.